They laughed at his old rifle. Their young Marine pointed and said that thing belongs in a museum, not on a range. The whole line snickered as he methodically assembled his weathered M1 Garand. The morning sun cut long shadows across Camp Pendleton, and the air smelled of oil. It was qualification day, and 20 eager Marines checked gear and talked about scores. Staff Sergeant Chen walked the line giving quiet advice, but letting the kids have confidence. Then an elderly man moved slowly toward an empty firing point, carrying a rifle from another era. He wore plain clothes and a cap, and he set a small leather case beside his mat. Private Morrison whispered, "Holy crap! Look at Grandpa," and the laughter spread like wildfire. The old man did not flinch. He handled each piece with steady hands and calm motions. Sergeant Chen asked for his range card and identification to make sure he belonged on the line. He handed over an ID that read, "Master Sergeant William Hayes, retired, with service dates and units." The words Special Forces and Vietnam passed between recruits, and the joke lost its edge. Targets went up and modern M4s chattered as young shooters chased speed and big hole counts. Hayes settled into a textbook-prone position and breathed with slow, measured control. His M1 Garand answered with a deep, authoritative boom that cut through the modern noise. Each shot was deliberate and followed by pause, as if the rifle and shooter moved as one. While the Marines fired fast, trying to impress each other, Hayes chose patient aim and repetition. People began to notice metal clangs from the target line after some of Hayes' well-placed shots. Private Morrison stopped firing and looked down range, and what he saw made him go still. Hayes was not just hitting targets, he was clustering hits in center mass again and again. At 500 yards, the paper showed multiple rounds in a tiny group like a machine rest. Staff Sergeant Chen called ceasefire, and the sudden quiet felt heavy with disbelief. Range safety pulled targets and began scoring, and faces that had mocked now watched in silence. Gunnery Sergeant Williams peered through high-powered optics and muttered, "Holy Mother of God." The proof was clear. Every target from 100 to 500 yards had tight center groupings. The modern rifles had scattered shots, while Hayes' rounds sat dead center where they mattered most. Marines who had laughed moments earlier now moved forward with respect and questions. Hayes cleaned his Garand slowly, as if tending memory, and answered simply, "Practice, lots and lots of practice." Private Morrison demanded there had to be more than practice. What was the real secret? Hayes looked at the young men and said, "You were practicing to pass a test. I was practicing to come home alive." The words landed like a weight, and the range felt the history behind every shot. He told of nights pinned down by a sniper and of one muzzle flash at 400 yards that changed everything. The men listened as story became lesson, and lesson became a duty passed down through muscle memory. After that first day, Hayes began showing up each Saturday and slowly teaching fundamentals, not tricks. He taught breath control, stance, trigger squeeze, follow through, and how to read wind without optics. He showed how hand-loaded ammunition behaves, and why a careful, slow follow-up matters more than gadgets. Young shooters who chased volume learned to wait for the moment and choose a single, purposeful shot. Private Morrison became Hayes' first student, and his swagger was replaced with practice and humility. Hayes worked with small groups, then more men. Came until the Saturday line stretched longer each week. 6 months later, Alpha Company posted the best qualification scores in the battalion, and pride shifted toward craft. The change was deeper than numbers. It was a culture of respect for weapon care and for each other. Hayes never wanted praise, but commanders placed a small plaque near the firing point to honor the lessons. It read, "The weapon does not make the warrior makes the weapon," and men read it often. Now recruits greet Hayes with nods and questions, not snickers, and they sit early and listen to him teach. The payoff was cleaner, handling fewer accidents, and a unit that moved with steady purpose rather than loud bravado. Visually, this story hooks because of contrast close-ups of old metal hands and the ping of the Garand loading, cut fast when modern rifles fire, then slow to Hayes' single deep shot and hold the silence after it lands. Show paper targets close with tight clusters and let viewers see proof with a slow zoom and a reaction shot. In interviews, let Hayes say missing meant my brothers died and let the young men react to that weight. Edit for tension, hold on faces, then cut to the result and let the sound design carry the reveal. End with Hayes walking away from the line and then turning to smile at the young men who follow him. Place a final shot on the small plaque and let the last line be a simple resonant lesson. Remember, contrast creates curiosity, humility turns mockery into respect, and proof makes the lesson shareable. This script works because it keeps suspense by delaying the reveal and then rewards patience with undeniable proof. Use easy language in voiceover and keep music low until the shot that changes the room. Focus on human reactions, pan faces, and hands not devices, and the story will feel real and honest. This is a story about skill passed down, about respect, and about quiet men who carry memory like a tool. Keep the hook strong in the first 20 seconds so viewers know there is a test and a surprise coming. Close with a line that stays in the ear, experience beats gear, and let viewers think about who taught them next. He showed patience that felt like a lesson older than any classroom or chart today. Those who watched began asking about wind drift and breath control and timing of each shot. Small habits became habits of survival, not tricks to show off for glory and respect. The men started sharing stories of failures and close calls to teach the young ones. A quiet line formed around Hayes as new recruits waited patiently to learn his method. They learned that consistency beats flash and that respect for an old rifle mattered deeply. Commanders noticed fewer incidents and new leaders emerged from men who were quiet but consistent daily. Hayes continued without fanfare, but he welcomed students and replaced boast with practice and reverence daily. Private Morrison earned an expert badge and the unit found confidence in skill and care. The lessons lasted longer than scores, and men carried them into missions with humility, always. Experience beats gear and respect saves lives every single day, always.